Ouais, vachement. Mais c'était bizarre.
How do you take something as raw as sex and slow it down? Not make it bigger or louder, but make it feel a little more controlled. Award-winning filmmaker Jean-Daniel Cadinot built his entire approach around that idea at a time when American studios were defining gay porn through power, structure, and escalation. In this episode, we're going to take a look at Jean-Daniel Cadinot, an enduring, commercially successful filmmaker and businessman who didn't follow the structure of the industry, and in doing so, created homoerotic imagery that stood apart and left behind some of the best gay adult films in history. In 1984, Harem by Jean-Daniel Cadinot became the perfect example of fantasy travel colliding in the same film. On the surface, it looks like a simple erotic fantasy, but beneath the fantasy lies a snapshot of a moment in time when gay identity, sexual liberation, and representation were all being negotiated in real time. Today we're looking at one of Jean-Daniel Cadinot's most discussed films, one that remains fascinating not only for what it shows, but for what it reveals about fantasy, race, power, and the changing landscape of gay adult cinema of the 1980s.
Hello, my name is Hal Roth, and the good people at Run Filmco Video have asked me to host this video program, a look at the fabulous career of superstar Rod Garetto, one of the few stars today that's able to do both straight and gay videos. I've had the pleasure of directing Rod in many of his biggest and best videos. As a matter of fact, I discovered him about 10 years ago. Hi! Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
Come on in.
Good seeing you, man.
God.
Long time.
I haven't seen you in a long time, Rod. How have you been?
Great.
Rod, say hi to our viewers.
Hi, viewers.
When we talk about gay porn in the 1980s, it's usually the same names that come up. Jeff Stryker, Joey Stefano, the performers whose images became larger than the films themselves. But once you start digging into the history of the industry, you realize those names aren't the whole history. Gay porn wasn't built only by stars. It was built by the performers who kept showing up. Through different studios, different scenes, and several decades, Rod Garetto was one of those performers. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Jean-Daniel Cadinot was born in German-occupied Paris on February 10, 1944. His parents were tailors in the Batignolles district in the Montmartre area of Paris, and he would later joke that they spent their living dressing men while he made a career undressing them. Cadinot originally wanted to be a painter, but trained in photography and visual arts at the National School of Photography in Paris instead. Before filmmaking, he built a body of work in photography, publishing revolutionary homoerotic images that he had first shared with close friends in private circulation. In 1974, France was in the middle of a political and cultural change, moving away from the cultural conservatism it had previously found itself under. Pornography had just been legalized for production and distribution. That same year, Emmanuel became one of the highest-grossing films in the country. In 1975, Cadinot published his first albums of male nudes in France. That same year, pornography quickly became an important part of the film industry. Films deemed pornographic were no longer banned. However, they were controlled under a rating system. Films were given an X rating, were heavily taxed, and limited to specific theaters, usually in red light districts or near major train stations. In 1978, Cadinot created his own production company and called it French Art, releasing their first film, Tendre Adolescent, Tender Teens. With that first release, Cadinot entered the gay adult entertainment industry. Cadinot released a maximum of 4 videos a year, aligning himself more closely with a group of filmmakers who were pushing gay erotic film towards something more deliberate and cinematic. Cadinot's films are defined by their pacing and visual restraint. He relied heavily on realism, locations, usually involving a journey and a narrative structure. His camera is patient, often remaining with the subject rather than cutting rapidly between actions. Another characteristic of Cadinot's films is a depiction of young men in their late teens or early 20s, something that we had here in the US, but was in those days eclipsed by muscle. In Cadinot's films, these young men may engage with older and sometimes larger men, frequently of non-European background. His protagonists tend to be youthful and more sexually versatile than actors in American pornography, who are often limited to top or bottom roles. Along with that, Cadinot's process reflects the philosophy of, rather than imposing strict direction, spending time with performers before filming, learning their preferences and comfort levels, and allowing that to inform the scenes. Cadinot did not approach filming as a series of required actions, and allowed interactions to develop naturally. And if a scene wasn't working, he didn't force it. That patience became a defining characteristic of his work. Another factor in Cadinot's success was his attention to new technological realities. Cadinot adapted early to changes in how his films were being viewed. With the rise of VHS, the experience shifted from theaters to private spaces. And Cadinot understood that and began shaping his films around home viewing. After years of being on the road and renting studios, in 1992, Cadinot restored a 19th century farmhouse an hour north of Paris in Picard. From there, he operated it as an inn for models when they came out to shoot, but most importantly, it was a studio, storeroom, and workshop to build sets.
Mais je vais y loger quand même 2-3 acteurs là parce que il est bas ce lit, très bas.
Over the course of his career, Cadinot directed and produced more than 70 films, often working across multiple roles, including photography, writing, and editing. His output remained consistent over several decades. In 1997, Cadinot was awarded the Venus Award by the International Erotic Film Awards in Berlin. In 2001, Cadinot was inducted into the GayVN Hall of Fame for his outstanding contributions and body of work.
La réussite, l'argent. Ce n'est qu'un moyen. Un moyen de pouvoir faire chier les autres et de faire ce que tu as envie de faire, ça c'est vrai. Cela dit, si tu n'as pas d'argent, tu peux quand même faire ce que tu as envie de faire. C'est vrai, j'ai réussi à faire des choses sans argent. Ça donne un peu plus de satisfaction, mais ça ne donne pas plus de bonheur.
Jean-Daniel Cadinot passed away on April 23, 2008, at the age of 64. On his blog was a final entry. Dear friends, critics, and others, if you're reading these words, I will have put down my camera, switched off the lights, drawn the curtains, and taken my final bow. May all the efforts and work of a whole life, the quest for a moment of pure truth in the sublime communion of two beings under the spell of undefinable desire for one another, inspire those who inherit my heart. The human being is made such that it only remembers the good and the beautiful. Therefore, I leave you with a free mind and a head overflowing with a myriad of young men, sometimes strong and vigorous, sometimes fragile and sensitive. All of them gave me these unforgettable moments of their most tender intimacy. Moments that only a few really know, but which I made into images to allow you to admire them over and over again. Never were success and personal fortune my creed. You offered me gratitude, and I thank you for that because I wanted nothing else. Cadinot salutes you. Remember a kindly fellow, an extreme observer given to rages and contradiction, but who listened to others and was full of love. Jean-Daniel Cadinot is buried in Montmartre Cemetery in Paris. Cadinot's work, which spans more than 70 titles, reflects a filmmaker who approached the medium with a strong sense of purpose. He was a self-described tireless worker, focused on control and precision in what he was creating. At the same time, he was aware of what his work represented. He didn't necessarily see it as pornography, a term which he pushed back on because of its connotations, but as a form of expression tied to sexuality and, at times, activism. French Art and Cadinot continue to operate under the filmmaker's name and remain one of the leading studios in gay adult film. As a director, Cadinot did not follow the direction of an industry, and that's what made him one of the most recognizable gay porn producers France has ever produced. There's not really much of Harem that I can show you in this review to keep it PG, but I can tell you that Harem follows a French traveler who enters a North African world populated by beautiful young men. The narrative is deliberately simple. Like many Cadinot productions, the film is less concerned with plot than atmosphere and the creation of an environment. As viewers, we move through bathhouses, courtyards, and private interiors alongside the protagonist, encountering a series of erotic situations that gradually build into a larger fantasy world. This was one of Cadinot's greatest strengths as a filmmaker. Cadinot specialized in immersive fantasies, inviting the viewer to inhabit a mood rather than simply watch a story unfold. One of the most striking aspects of Harem is its setting. The film presents North Africa not as a specific geographic reality, but as a fantasy space. Its locations, architecture, costumes, and atmosphere are designed to evoke a sense of mystery and erotic possibility. The setting functions almost like a dream and is less concerned with realism than with creating an environment where desire feels unrestricted. The famous hammam sequences are a perfect example. Scholars have noted that the bathhouse functions as both a public and private space, a place where intimacy becomes possible while maintaining an air of cultural authenticity. In Harem, the hammam serves as a gateway into fantasy. The viewer enters alongside the protagonist and is invited to participate in the film's erotic world. Many scholars examining or re-examining the film have pointed out that its fantasy is built around difference. The men surrounding the protagonist are frequently presented as powerful, masculine, and physically dominant, while their identities are often simplified into visual symbols designed to communicate exoticism and erotic appeal. What emerges is a fantasy structure in which race, culture, and sexuality become intertwined. The film participates in a much older Western tradition that imagined North Africa and the Middle East as places of mystery, sensuality, and unrestricted desire. This does not necessarily mean the film is malicious or intentionally political, but it does show that the fantasy draws upon ideas that existed long before the film itself. As one scholar argues, Harem can be understood as part of a broader tradition of homoerotic Orientalism, a fantasy of the East filtered through a Western gaze. Another interesting point is that some viewers might interpret the film as reversing traditional power dynamics. The Central European character is frequently pursued, surrounded, and desired. Yet many scholars argue that these apparent reversals do not completely escape the larger framework of fantasy. Even when the roles seem inverted, the film continues to rely on established ideas about difference. Power is not simply a matter of who dominates a particular scene. Power also exists in who frames the fantasy, who occupies the viewer's perspective on how certain identities are represented. Seen from this angle, Harem becomes a fascinating example of how desire and representation can operate simultaneously. None of what I discussed here should overshadow what made Jean-Daniel Cadinot unique. Unlike many directors of his era, Cadinot was deeply interested in atmosphere and emotional immersion. His films often feel closer to fantasy than narratives, understanding that erotic cinema could communicate mood, longing, and imagination just as effectively as explicit action. That ability helped distinguish him from many of his contemporaries and remains one reason his films continue to attract attention decades later. Today, Harem occupies a unique place in gay adult film history. It can be appreciated as an erotic fantasy, studied as an artifact of 1980s gay culture, and analyzed as a text that reveals how race, desire, fantasy, and identity were represented during a period of profound change. Ultimately, what makes Harem memorable is not simply what happens on screen. It is the way the film captures a particular moment when gay pornography was becoming more than entertainment. It was becoming a part of a larger conversation. And 40 years later, we're still having that conversation.
How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Go over in the corner, would you? And just strip down and take a look at you. By the way, Rod, how old are you?
21.
Oh, okay. And what sign are you?
I'm a Leo. I was born August 7th, 66.
Oh, you're a Leo. I'm a Leo too.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. What city were you born in?
Wow. Well, I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was, and a week after that, or not too long after that, came down here in LA, and I was babied down South Texas.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, well, you must have me, because I remember when I first met you, we were out jogging along the railroad track, I gave you my car, and you called me the next day.
Yeah, that was great. And then I started modeling.
What's interesting about Rod Garetto is that even the basic facts get a little fuzzy, and generally describe him as being of Mexican or Latino heritage. Beyond that, the trail starts getting very thin, and honestly, that's not unusual. What's easy to forget is how little documentation exists for performers from this period. Once you go beyond database listings, film credits, and a few scattered interviews, you're often left piecing together a life from fragments. And that's certainly the case for Garetto. Most of what we know comes from archived databases, fan-maintained histories, and industry recollections that have survived long after many of the original companies disappeared. One story that appears repeatedly in archival accounts is that Garetto was discovered while jogging by director Hal Roth.
Can you remember the first time we met?
Yeah,
That was a long time ago. You were out jogging, and here I gave you a card, and you came over the next day, and we made a screen test tape. Your very, very first appearance on video. Well, look at this. I've got it to show you.
Wow, I don't believe the hairstyle, man. It's a lot different.
God, you sure looked a lot different back in those days, Rod, you know?
Whether every detail of that story is perfectly accurate is almost beside the point. What it captures is how many performers entered the industry during that era. There weren't always agents or formal auditions. Sometimes somebody simply saw a look that fit what the studios wanted and opened the door.
How long do you think you're going to be doing this?
I don't know. It depends on what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, it seems like fun, huh?
Yeah, it seems good. I like to have sex anyways.
Ain't you kind of nervous, then?
Nah, not really.
Well, looks like maybe we can find some work for you. Looks like you're in pretty good shape. 21 years old, huh?
Yes.
Why don't you strip down? Let me see what you look like. Yeah.
Garetto entered adult films in 1987, right as the VHS era was transforming the business. And when you look at his career, there's never really a moment where the industry seems to rally around him as the next superstar. Instead, you see a model who keeps performing across multiple studios, production styles, and prolifically. Garetto was always there and ready to go.
Stay up your clothes for me.
And if you were watching gay adult films in the late 1980s and early 90s, chances are you ran into him more than once.
I need you to sign for the package there.
Sure. So how is it working for Pleasure World?
Oh, it's all right. Kind of frustrating handling dildos and pictures of naked men all day and not being able to do anything about it.
Oh, really? Why don't you let me help you ease your tension?
Okay, I'm a little ahead of schedule.
The mustache, the tattoos, and the compact muscular build. Nothing especially flashy or exaggerated. Just a performer who looked believable within the fantasy those films were creating.
Guess what I want?
Membership dues.
That's right.
Hey, man, I just got a judge. Can I get a break?
Well, that's too bad, because if we knew you didn't have the money, we wouldn't have done the work for you.
Well, what am I going to do?
Well, let's see here. We don't get too many new faces around here.
But if you gave up some of that pretty white ass you have there, I just might be able to buy you some time.
Garetto remained active throughout the 1990s and into the early 2000s, appearing in gay, bisexual, and straight productions.
Yeah. Let's party, Granny. Hey!
Some sources attribute more than 100 titles to him, although exact totals are difficult to verify because of aliases, compilation releases, and incomplete archival records. Most available timelines place his retirement around 2005 or 2006.
Wow, I don't believe I made all these videos.
It's been a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Remember this one? Well, Rod, man, that's a great bunch of videos that you've made for us, you know? You can be real proud of them.
I am proud.
The more I looked at Rod Garetto's career, the more he started to feel like the kind of performer who helped hold the industry together. They're out there. Not necessarily the guy getting all the attention or the guy on every magazine cover, but the guy who was reliable. And there's also another layer worth acknowledging. Latino performers were never completely absent from gay adult film, but they weren't always centered in the industry's marketing either. Garetto's long visibility across multiple decades quietly places him within that history of representation.
You're the worst fucking private that ever came to this boot camp. The only thing that's gonna keep me from getting you court-martialed is to take care of the sergeant. You know how that is?
No, sir. What's that, sir?
Get on your knees, boy, and I'll show you.
And like many performers from his generation, much of what remains of his career now survives through archives, private collections, database entries, and the memories of viewers who were there at the time. And maybe that's why Rod Garetto is still worth talking about. Not because he changed the industry or was the biggest star of that era, but because when you start looking closely at how gay porn actually worked in the 1980s and 1990s, you keep running into performers like him. The performers who aren't always easily remembered, but were always there. You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I'm your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn can be found on every podcast directory as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on X, Facebook, Instagram, Substack, Threads. And if you like what you're watching or listening to and want to be a part of the process, head over to patreon.com/demystifying gay porn, where you can support this podcast and YouTube channel, and I can continue making content like you've just enjoyed. As always, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a like, leave a comment, and let me know what else you'd like me to cover. This is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off.